Hi folks! In this video we're going to go over the 2026 F2 grid with drivers' racing backgrounds. I'll also show you how to spot each driver on track. I definitely didn't know what to look for when I first started watching without any context, so hopefully this will be helpful for you. Just like I did in my recent F3 video, I'll give a quick rundown of the series itself. Anyone who's just here for the driver lineup can skip using the timestamps. F2 runs 6-cylinder 3.4 litre engines capable of 620 horsepower at 8,750 RPM, top speed hitting 335 km an hour or 208 miles an hour. They have 6 gears and rear wing DRS or drag reduction system to use on predetermined straights on each track. The driver activates DRS to open the rear wing panels, which allow air to pass through more easily and reduces the drag on the car. DRS can be used during qualifying but can only be deployed during races if they are within 1 second of the driver ahead of them. F2 have 5 different tyres available: super soft, soft, medium and hard slicks, as well as treaded wets. 2 slick compounds are allocated to each race weekend based on the track and expected tyre degradation. Now, while this is a spec series where everyone has allegedly been supplied with the same machinery, there's been more than a little speculation that not every single part is manufactured equally. With such highly specialised engines, minor manufacturing tolerances can result in alleged performance variation across the grid. On top of this, sadly the Mecachrome engines are notoriously unreliable, and you can expect at least once per race weekend that there will be some sort of engine-related retirement. Highly disappointing considering the astronomical costs the drivers are expected to put up for these seats. They often have the opportunity to be seen and prove their abilities taken away from them by the very series that they're paying to be part of. This does mean that with the current car specs, F2 results aren't a particularly fair representation of driver pace and ability. Please keep this in mind as the series goes on. F2 have 14 rounds with some irritatingly long breaks in the middle. There is 7 weeks between the first Middle Eastern stint and the European stint, and then there's another 10 weeks before they return to the Middle East for the close of the season. For every race weekend you can expect 1 practice and 1 qualifying session, as well as a sprint race and a feature race. The races can be cancelled or abandoned with heavy enough rain, but if they're partway through a race when it's called off, smaller point allowances will be dished out based on how much of the race was completed. With there being only 1 quali, the sprint race utilises a reverse grid, flipping the order of the top 10 qualifiers. Sprint races are shorter and award less points than the feature race, 10 points for first place, counting down to 1 point for 10th place. There is a point for fastest lap for the top 10 finishers of the sprint race. For the feature, the drivers start in the order they qualified in. In terms of points, it's 25 for first, then 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, and 1 point for 10th place. During the feature race, there is 1 mandatory pit stop. F2 pit stops aren't as high octane as F1 pit stops. The teams are only allowed 1 crew member per wheel, and they will need to swap between the 2 slick compounds pre-selected by the FIA for each event, unless it's a wet race. There are 2 points up for grabs for the driver starting in pole position for the feature race, and there's another fastest lap point on the table for the top 10 finishers. There are 11 F2 teams with 2 drivers per team. Formula 2 teams aren't comparable to F1 teams in terms of the championship being much more everyone for themselves. The teams themselves still have a championship and want the most total points, so if you collide with your teammate you'll probably get a firm slap on the wrist. At the end of the day, you're not working together and aren't likely to try and hold another driver up to help out your teammate. Based on their nature, F3 and F2 are feeder series for F1 and are based largely on driver development. They're not really designed for a driver to stay in the series indefinitely. It's more about progressing your ability behind the wheel before progressing to the next level and hopefully catching the eye of F1 teams. The cost to participate in a full season is astronomical, and frankly it creates a barrier to entry for talented drivers with poorer financial backgrounds from moving forward in the sport. Unless you have many sponsors or investors willing to put you through the series, you need to be from a very affluent family just to participate at this level. There are 22 drivers on track, but that doesn't mean the delineation between teams is as clear as the F1 grid. Drivers do not choose the numbers they run in F2. The numbers are assigned to the teams based on the points finishing order in the championship from the previous season. Each team runs 2 cars, with 1 car having a black and 1 a yellow T-shaped camera on top of the air intake. The biggest discrepancy for distinguishing between teammates is due to some of the grid being under the umbrella of Formula 1 team driver training programs. This can mean they run a corresponding livery with their associated F1 team rather than the livery of their F2 team. Many of the drivers also have sponsors displayed on their liveries in addition to the F2 team or their associated F1 team livery. I've made some grid guides with driver names, numbers, TCAM colours and associated F1 teams. I've linked them below for you to download and use while watching the racing. We'll go through the current 2026 F2 drivers in number order. Invicta Racing have managed to maintain their position at the top of the team's championship. In terms of selecting their driver lineups, they typically sign a promising rookie as well as an established point finisher. Their promising rookie for 2026 is Ferrari Academy driver Rafael Camara. Camara has had a phenomenal run of form throughout his whole racing career. While he did claim the 2025 F3 title around early, there was a lot of discourse online about how he was a speed merchant and only capable of one lap pace and winning from the front. Camara took the opportunity during the last race weekend to disprove those claims. After having his time deleted at Monza and starting at the rear of the pack, he made a huge run in both races, his best effort in the feature race being from 30th to 5th. Safe to say he's the favourite for the F2 title. Invicta's established reliable driver for 2026 is Joshua Dirksen, who is on a fantastic run of form, clinching podiums in 6 of the last F2 races in 2025 for AIX. Calling back to my prior point about engine discrepancies in F2, Dirksen was speculated to have one of these magic engines, a rumour I believe he's already disproved during post-season testing, as he was on par with teammate Kamara's times. We'll be getting a good opportunity to see how Dirksen matches up against a competitive teammate with Kamara this year. Hitech TGR are running an all-new lineup in 2026 with 2 experienced drivers. First is Ritomo Miata, a Super Formula champion who managed to clinch the win over Liam Lawson in 2023. Everyone expected Miata to make a serious impression in F2, but sadly he's rarely made it to point finishing positions. He's earned a second place finish last year following disqualifications for 2 drivers ahead of him, but Miata has a significant racing background with a mix of single-seater, sports car and endurance racing. I'm interested to see what he can do with Hitech and how he'll match up against his teammate being Colton Herta. Herta has opted to depart from IndyCar and get into a junior feeder series seat, which is a hell of a demotion. The general plan seems to have him run F2 for a season to get to grips with the number of tracks that they run in F1 and to learn the characteristics of the Pirelli tyres before he moves into the Cadillac team. If it was just about super license points, which IndyCar don't have many to hand out, he could have done an off-season FIA championship like CT Frott alongside other F1 hopefuls. Either way, this coming F2 season may impact how people view Herta. If he's successful, it will be expected based on his career thus far. If he fails, which in F2 is likely with the reliability issues with the engines, it may paint him as a washed-up driver past his peak. Those of you who are new to the series, I suggest you take F2 results with a pinch of salt, as the machinery isn't really reliable enough to clearly demonstrate driver ability. Campos Racing usually hosts a Red Bull Junior in their feeder series teams and has a new lineup for 2026 with both of their drivers from 2025 graduating full-time into Formula E and Formula 1 seats. Noel Leon isn't a stranger to the occasional podium, but doesn't seem to have struck a consistent streak in recent years. It's hard to know where he's likely to fall amongst this F2 grid following his 2025 F3 season with Prema, who took a while before their drivers were able to achieve a good run of results. Hopefully he doesn't fall too far behind his teammate. The Red Bull Junior on the roster this year is Nikola Solov, who had a really strong F3 season in 2025. There would have been a closer fight with Kamara had luck been on Solov's side a bit more, but it does appear that he moved to F3 a bit too early in 2023, having taken him 3 seasons to get into a title fight. Not technically an F2 rookie, Solov joined Campos in F2 for the last 2 rounds in 2025, filling in for Pepe Marti, who had accepted a Formula E seat. It was an impressive debut for Solov in the more powerful machinery, nabbing a podium on his second race weekend, a feat which a significant portion of the full-time 2025 drivers didn't manage over the course of the whole season. Now, Dam's Lucas Oil had a tale of 2 halves in 2025, with one driver being a title contender and landing a second-place finish in the championship, and the other rarely finishing in the points. Hopefully they don't have such a divide with the 2026 lineup. The Ferrari Academy driver of Dino Beganovic has had more downs than ups in F2, where he struggled to get into the points for the first half of the 2025 season. This proved to be a disappointment following Beganovic's podium result during his head start joining F2 at the end of 2024. He seemed to find his form again towards the end of 2025, so we can hope that Dams can help him achieve some great results with many more podium finishes. From the online discourse, Roman Belinsky appeared to have surprised a lot of people with his results in F3 last year, outperforming both of his well-rated teammates. I'm not sure it was a fair estimation to underrate Belinsky to such a degree. His Freca 2024 results are skewed on the low end due to medical reasons, so his recent results speak to consistent improvements. I can only hope the trend continues for him in F2. MP Motorsport had a good shot for a driver title run last year, but have had their veteran drivers step away from F2. They've dropped a bit down the team's championship order, so we'll see what their 2026 lineup is capable of. Alpine Academy driver Gabriele Mini honestly had a pretty rough run of his F2 season with Prema in 2025. Based on his past good form, he was expected to come in firing on all cylinders, and instead had frequent reliability issues. Hopefully he can deliver some finishes more akin to his historical race results. Oliver Goethe exited the Red Bull Junior Academy at the beginning of the year. He was becoming a more regular points finisher as the 2025 season went on, and was importantly improving his qualifying results. I'm hoping he'll be a stronger contender in 2026 than he was in 2025. Prema suffered a lot of reliability issues in their 2025 F2 season. Hopefully they've had access to some equipment changes in the new season and can give their drivers a better run. Sebastian Montoya has the difficult task of not only being compared to his rivals, but also to his father. It's an extra hurdle to overcome when there's a preconception to connect to your name. Sticking with Prema for a second season, Montoya is a respectable driver in his own right, with some decent points finishes, and seems to be improving following a management change in 2025. Aston Martin Academy driver Marty Boyer had a fantastic run in F3 last year with a close run third place finish. While it was his third F3 season, Boyer has demonstrated some serious racecraft. I'd like to hope that Prema can help his continued trajectory and would love for some podium finishes. Now there are a few numbers that don't get run in F2, the first of which is number 13, which I figure gets skipped over for superstitious reasons. Rodin Motorsport have a more promising lineup for 2026 than they did last season. In 2025, Christian Mansell opted not to proceed with the season, and Rodin replaced him with Amory Cordial, who didn't make an impact on their team championship standings. Their drivers this year are likely to propel them higher up the order. Martinius Stenchon had a great F2 debut during the last few rounds of the 2025 season, managing to show some pace and nearly nabbing points for the otherwise backmarker F2 team of Trident. Stenchon was part of the exodus of the McLaren driver development program towards the end of 2025, but I don't think that was due to a lack of ability on Stenchon's part. As well as a promising F3 season, he seems to be hitting really great form, so we can only hope he continues in the same trajectory. We have a theme of ex-McLaren development drivers running for Rodin this season. Returning for his second year in F2 with Rodin is Alex Dunn. There was allegedly a bit of a mess with his F1 team partnerships towards the end of 2025. He was previously signed as part of the McLaren driver development program, but announced a departure from the team as rumours of talks to join the Red Bull Academy surfaced. A sensible decision when your goal is to get into an F1 seat, as McLaren aren't likely to push out either of their current lineup in favour of a rookie, and Red Bull seem to have a rotating cast of characters between their two teams. Better to be in the seat and have an opportunity to prove yourself than never have a seat at all. Unfortunately, Dunn's Red Bull deal fell through, which may have also had something to do with the departure of Helmut Marko. Flying solo with no F1 association this season, we'll have to see if Dunn can match or beat his strong attempt during his rookie season in 2025. There were certainly ups and downs last year, so hopefully there'll be more ups than downs and he can make a solid challenge for the title. ART Grand Prix had a bit of a rough run in 2025, which on part appeared to be born out of unluckiness. Time will tell if the trend continues and we can pin the issues on something more than happenstance. Another Alpine Academy driver, Kush Maini, returns for a fourth full F2 season. Sadly, his results seem to be falling year after year, and he's likely doing his reputation more harm than good by continuing to enter a championship where he's not competitive. The last few years, Maini has been up against strong teammates with title winner Gabriel Bortoleto and second place finisher Jack Crawford. While I doubt his new teammate will be a title contender, we'll have to see where they sit in comparison to each other. Also, confusingly, Mini and Maini, the two Alpine Academy drivers for F2, will both be in black T-camera Alpine liveried cars, so you'll just have to watch out for their respective driver numbers to spot them on track. Desanopol Intrapuvizak had a decent year in F3 for 2025, but he was somewhat overshadowed by his teammates. I was always happy to see him achieve a race win, but I'm really not sure how he's going to stack up against this 2026 F2 grid. I hope to see him more in the points than out of them. Now, the other numbers not used in F2 are 18 and 19, following the passing of F2 driver Antoine Hubert in 2019. AIX Racing don't seem to be focused on position within the team's championship and more appear to be available to purchase a seat. Their current 9th place in the team's championship is due entirely to Dirksen's point finishes, who has now made the move to Invicta for 2026. Emerson Fittipaldi Jr. is taking the leap from Euro Cup directly to F2. As I said earlier with regard to multi-generational drivers, it's going to be tricky for anyone trying to follow the footsteps of successful family members. This feels like it's a huge leap with little in the way of Formula Regional results, and we can only hope he doesn't flounder and can prove the move to F2 is justified. Cian Shields is honestly just living his best life. Despite some good results earlier in his junior career, where he admittedly finished second in a championship where only 3 drivers competed for the full season, he seems to have struggled for pace in F3 and F2 and is just hanging out driving race cars. Van Amersfoort Racing had begun to make some more consistent points finishes towards the end of 2025, and will hopefully be able to pull themselves higher up the team's championship order throughout 2026. In the same vein as Colton Herter, Nicolas Varone has an early background in single-seater junior series and is an established driver, this time in sports car and endurance series. With Kalle Rovanperä, the WRC driver who competed in CT Frot earlier this year, this could be the start of a trend in proven drivers attempting to put themselves back into the ring for an F1 seat. Varone achieved a few podiums in British F3 in 2019, but it's been a long time since he's been in a single-seater. Hopefully he has the experience and ability that allows him to adapt quickly. Rafael Villagomez earned all but one of the points for VAR last season, and had started to lock in some more consistent results in the last few rounds. Hopefully it was a sign of things to come. He finished ahead of Varone in all of the postseason testing rounds, but I don't know how much of that is due to Villagomez driving the same car he's been in all season, with Varone stepping into a spec he's unfamiliar with. Trident in F2 is the polar opposite of Trident in F3 or FREC. Whether it's due to them being supplied some of the Mecachrome engines with these alleged performance discrepancies, they've not been able to fight against the other teams and, in turn, haven't been able to sign any highly competitive drivers to attempt to put them out of the hole they've found themselves in. Laurens van Hoopen had some decent results in his F3 stints, but failed to finish in the points during his brief foray into F2 at the end of 2025. Based on postseason testing, I don't have much hope that we'll see much in the way of points finishes for him. Our final driver for this 2026 F2 grid is John Bennett. John Bennett has moved away from Van Amersfoort and joined Trident for 2026. Sadly, Bennett hasn't had much success in F2, having made the leap from Formula Regional and similar series directly to F2. He's rarely made it into the points, and it's looking like it might be another year of the same for Bennett. Well, that's our current grid for F2 in 2026. There typically isn't too much variance for the F2 grid for most of the season, but maybe after the F3 season finishes in Monza, there may be some drivers stepping up for the last few rounds to get a head start for the 2027 season. Please let me know if there were any drivers you are keen to watch, or if you're disappointed about anyone missing out on seats. I always love a bit of discourse about feeder series, and I intend to make update videos as the season progresses, so be sure to subscribe so I can keep you up to date. I hope to see you again soon. I'd like to hope that Prema